This is Rabbi Shira. Welcome to Meron, the holy burial place of the great master Rabbi Shimon by Yochai. You see behind me some of the mountains surrounding Meron. Off in the distance, of course, is Tzfat, the holy city. And I just pan a little bit to give you a taste of the beauty and the peace and quiet and the clean air and what we call menuchat nefesh, the settling of the soul that happens in these holy places. The world is always churning us up, churning itself up, and we come to these places to settle, to rest, to contemplate, to meditate, to pray, and to learn. And sometimes we come and we hear stories, and yesterday we had a seminar for women on the Zivug of Kabbalah, finding your other half. And we're going to continue with this series about Zivugim, which is, of course, finding your true soulmate. But in the midst of it, a lady told a story about a young man who was from a family that's been in Tzfat for about 500 years, as the story goes. And in their tradition of this family, they had a grandfather about 100 years ago. And his custom was to ride a donkey from Tzfat to Meron every day to open up the grave of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. And while this fellow was on his donkey riding the rocky pathways between Meron and Tzfat, he would say Tehillim. Certainly he probably knew the whole book of Psalms by heart. And he would say the Tehillim while he was out in nature, making the crossing on his donkey. It's probably on a donkey, it must be at least about a 3-hour ride, maybe a little less, depends on your donkey. But as you'll see from the story, he wasn't just any old donkey. And it wasn't just any old guy who happens to be saying Tehillim every day, crossing the valleys of the Galil between the tzaddikim of Tzfat and those in Meron. And this family is, I believe the name of the family in Tzfat is Camus, and they're known and they're part of a group of families that have been in Tzfat a very long time. It's funny about in Israel, when you're from a family that's been in a place a long time, it's like you have a tradition. You have a connection that goes way back in time, and that gives you a certain identity, a certain stability, and, well, self-confidence and self-esteem, I should say. Anyways, so our old fellow who's going on the donkey every day saying Tehillim from Tzfat to Meron, he's in charge of cleaning the grave and opening the doors of the grave for anybody that came during the daytime. And he had the key, and he would go every day. One day he gets to the grave of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, which is a large compound today. It wasn't as large then, but it still was considerable. He saw that he had forgotten the key. And so, well, what could he do? He felt an obligation, he felt a responsibility to keep his job going, and keep the grave clean and open the doors for other people to come and pray. So he prayed himself, and Rabbi Shimon appeared to him in a vision, and the gate popped open. That's the story that this fellow told his groups, and it came down to me through someone who is actually married into that family. And so the gate opened, he went inside, and the Rashbi told him, though, I'm doing this for you on condition that you don't tell anybody the miracle of me coming down and opening a locked gate. Now, it doesn't seem like a very big miracle in the history of miracles, Am Yisrael is a nation of miracles. The fact that we exist is a miracle. The fact that we have Eretz Yisrael is a miracle. The fact that Jerusalem is ours is a miracle. I mean, it's endless lists of miracles. But the Rashbi told this Rav Camus that he was not allowed to tell anybody what had happened, and if he did, he would die. And so, of course, he didn't want to die, so he kept the secret of the story to himself. And then on his deathbed, he told his son, his grandson, the story about Rabbi Shimon opening the gate for him. So, it looks like a little miracle. I mean, obviously, for a rabbi from 2,000 years ago to come and open the door for you is a nice thing. How much it changed reality, I'm not sure. How many people were allowed in that day, I'm not sure. But we have the story today. The story has been revealed. And what are we to learn from it now? Well, certainly we want to keep our keys in our pockets when we got to go to work and open up the store, right? And if you merit to be the person who takes care of the grave of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, then it's probably, something that's dear to your heart, this type of work. It's not like opening up, a drugstore or a gasoline station, etc., which I've done those kinds of jobs too. But nonetheless, the real question is, why did he have to die if he revealed the story? Could he just go home that night and tell his wife, wow, honey, you wouldn't believe it, I forgot the key and Rabbi Shimon opened the gate? Why would that require him to die? And usually that means within the year. It's not going to be immediately death on the spot. It could be, and there's many stories like this where people will die within the year of something very holy happening. Rabbi Avraham Azulai, the author of Chesed Avraham, who was a great Kabbalist, several hundred years ago, he went into the cave of Machpelah to fetch the sword of a passing caliph, an Arab sheikh, and they told him that he would, leave this world that year. And there are other stories like this. Why? What's going on? Why does a person get the little miracle, and if he opens his mouth and tells anybody, he's going to leave the world? Is it because, the rabbi doesn't want other people to know about this ability? Because there is a teaching that it is very difficult for souls in the upper worlds to come down into the physical realm. That is not a pleasant journey from spirituality to materiality. And there are many, many thousands of layers, so to speak, of cosmic space between what is purely spiritual and what is physical. So that's one idea. Rabbi Nachman used to say, you don't know how hard it was for me to come down. That's what he said in his Petek to Rabbi Yisrael Odesser. How hard it was for me to come down into the world to give you this message, etc., etc. So that's one potential explanation why he told him not to tell the story of opening the gate. But listen, the story goes further. Later in life, this old man, he became blind. And he got on his donkey blind one day, and the donkey took him all the way from Tzfat to Meron on his own. Now, this donkey has GPS, This donkey is a holy creature unto himself. It seems to me that's a bigger miracle, the donkey that takes a blind man from Tzfat to Meron so he can open the gate of Rabbi Shimon. And so what merit did this man have, and what power did his Tehillim have to guide the donkey all the way across the wadi, which is quite a treacherous journey? So we understand that this fellow, Rabbi Camus, was not a simple guy. He was obviously a very holy person and very connected above. But he kept the secret his whole life. Now, there is a teaching that is very useful for all of us. And that teaching is the statement of the rabbis that says, Ein bracha ela b'davar samui min ha'ayin. It says in the Talmud that there is no blessing on a thing unless it is covered from the eye. And this is from Masechet Brachot. If it's covered from the eye, means nobody knows about it. That your blessing is much more powerful when not everybody knows. Now you could say, wait a minute, we just had Hanukkah, and we make a blessing on these candles, and we put them in the street so that people do see the miracle and do see the blessing. That's the opposite of hiding your blessings. Why are we told to hide our blessings? That the blessing won't dwell on something unless it's hidden. Now, that's why amongst religious people, a woman won't tell anybody that she's pregnant until well into the pregnancy, until it's obvious. And that's also why I had an uncle who was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he never told anybody. Because he understood this principle of Ein bracha ela b'davar samui min ha'ayin. That the blessing is on the thing that's hidden from the eye. Now what eye? Well, of course, that answer should trigger another answer, which is the ayin hara, the evil eye, the eye of jealousy, the eye of covetousness, the eye of wanting something does not belong to us. And so that might be something that we can apply to the story of the old man that rode to Meron every day. But in our lives, it's very real, because when we have a blessing, it opens up the other side to our blessing. And if the other side knows about it, the other side being the forces of constriction, the forces of judgment, the forces of din, as it's called, in the physical realm. The forces of din are there to check and see, like any good attorney, or I should say prosecuting attorney, is this person worthy of his blessing? That's the first thing that people ask. Is he worthy to give classes on Facebook? Is he worthy to have a nice house, whatever the thing that the person has? Those questions are asked. And really, we don't want those questions being asked. We don't want our blessings being exposed to the other side, to the forces of judgment. It's better to keep it modest and keep it hidden and keep it unknown. And I think that's part of the teaching here with the man who was blind, who was taken by donkey to Meron every day, because his blessing was very, very great to have that level of attachment to the tzaddik, to the author of the Zohar, to have a donkey that'll take you, it's about 15 kilometers through the wadi, and it's a hard enough journey without seeing, with seeing, I should say. So I think this is what we need. One thing we can take away from this is very valuable, is to learn the modesty of blessing. And the modesty of blessing means, we don't have to tell people because we're proud that God gave me children or grandchildren, or proud that your business is doing well, or proud that, you receive some honor or some reward. The world will know what they need to know, but we don't need to advertise that kind of thing. And that's where the blessing is, and that's where the protection is. And perhaps by this man not telling his story until he was on his deathbed, that he protected himself from undue attention. And the truth is that the hidden tzaddikim, the hidden righteous people, can accomplish more spiritually when they're hidden. Because when a rabbi is revealed as a miracle worker, then the whole world is standing at his front door every morning. And he never has time to continue his prayers and his learning and his teaching, which is an essential channel of his life work. He's always got to be receiving people from the outside. So there are many hidden people that actually, they don't want to be revealed. They don't want to be famous. And that's a wonderful thing in our generation, to have that idea. I don't need to be famous. I don't want that attention. I just want to do God's will. Now, some people, their job is to get out there and teach Torah and bring it to the world, because the world needs the Torah, and the world needs these teachings and these old stories of simple people who had miraculous lives. Because it gives us strength, it strengthens our faith and our connection to Hashem, and that He wants our service. And that if we do a little move for Hashem, He's going to do a lot for us in heaven. And so we shall all be blessed with that determination, to understand that your life is already a miracle, and the job is to find out how. And to see the patterns, to see the synchronicity in your life, to see the revelation of a higher will in your life, and to look for it in a modest way. And you don't have to tell the world, but when you find it, your heart opens and your mind opens, and then you become a more powerful channel for the revelation of goodness in the world. So that should be a blessing for everyone this new week. Shavua Tov to everyone. You should have a healthy week and a prosperous week, and to feel that the days are so full that at the end of the night you don't even know what time or what day it is anymore, because you've been so filled with blessing each day. So we'll continue our work on Patreon and Facebook, YouTube, etc. And God bless you all. Shavua Tov.